I want to give you an updated list of my top tips to be super healthy. A lot of these tips I'm going to share with you are based on my mistakes. If you apply these tips, you're going to solve a lot of your health problems. Let's start with tip number one. You only want to eat when you're hungry, and you don't want to eat if you're not hungry. This sounds too simple, right? For years, right at the end of dinner, I snacked constantly. I never really paid attention to my hunger. I just liked food and I just kept eating. But if you were just to wait until you're actually hungry and eat, your body would do so much better. Don't eat if you're not hungry. Number two, drink liquid when you're thirsty, and don't drink if you're not thirsty. This idea that we have to drink so much liquid is based on false information. You're diluting electrolytes, especially sodium. Now we can end up with a situation where you're creating more dehydration when you're drinking more liquid. The next tip relates to that tip I just mentioned. I find that when I drink carbonated water, I feel more hydrated. When I drink regular water, for some reason, I'm not as hydrated. The other thing that I do to hydrate myself is when I drink liquid, many times I'll put a tea bag in there that's naturally decaffeinated. For some reason, when I drink tea, I get way more hydrated. I can drink more water. It just feels better. And plus, I'm getting the phytonutrients from the tea. I will take a gallon glass jar and I'll fill it with water. I'll put a couple tea bags in there and I'll put it outside in the sun for 1 to 2 hours. The sun gives it infrared. Infrared actually makes structured water, which is really healthy. I've been doing that lately and my body loves it. Next tip. If you have a confusion of what diet to do or what food to eat, and you really don't know what is true or not, go ahead and try one diet and see how you feel. Try the other diet, see how you feel. Then you'll really know what works for you. So I'm not about forcing someone to do a certain diet or a certain food, but I am interested to get someone to try something out to see if it actually works for them. The next tip, intermittent fasting. The frequency of when you eat might sound like an insignificant thing, but it's just as important as what you eat, because all sorts of amazing positive things happen when you do intermittent fasting. Our bodies were not developed or designed to consume food every hour and a half. If we can match what our bodies are used to eating as far as the frequency, we can actually achieve a much greater level of health. It's taking these damaged proteins and it's recycling them into new tissue. It's also cleaning up pathogens and getting rid of bacteria, viruses, fungus, mold. And that happens when you're not eating. And this also relates to the next tip. Out of all the things that you can do that's bad for you, it's snacking, eating between meals. Why? Because again, it spikes that insulin, especially if you're snacking on junk food. Out of all the things that a person can do to improve health, if they just got rid of their snacking, that would create a huge change, even if they don't change their diet. The next tip, too much carb. When you're reading a label, the most important thing to look at is the carbohydrates, not necessarily just the sugar, because a lot of these foods don't have any sugar, but at high carbs because they're adding starch, maltodextrin, flour. That's basically hidden sugar. Keep your carbs on the low side. In fact, in a given day, you don't want to consume more than 30 grams of carbs per day. And this rolls into the next tip. When you get your blood test, I think it's very important to request a fasting insulin test for literally 10 to 15 to 20 years before you develop diabetes. Your fasting insulin levels are high, but the doctors never test that. So if you were able to test your fasting insulin, you could literally prevent diabetes, because if it was high, you could do something about it. And that leads us to the next tip that's sort of related. And this is a blood test. Probably one of the most important blood tests is for vitamin D. At least 10,000 to 20,000 IUs of vitamin D every single day. It affects 10% of all of your genetics. And for some people that have autoimmune disease and chronic inflammation and other problems that relate to a poor immune system, they're going to need much, much higher levels of vitamin D to create the effect. It's really important to test vitamin D, and you can even do a home test. I'm going to put that link down below. And then the second most important nutrient to focus on is your magnesium. Most people don't consume enough magnesium in their diet, so usually they're deficient. You need magnesium to help vitamin D work. Magnesium helps control calcium. Calcium causes contraction of the muscles, a muscle cramp, a spasm. And when you get those, you have too much calcium. Magnesium can come in as a remedy and get rid of that problem because it's the controller of calcium. Now let's go to the next tip. That's potassium. If you look at all the nutrients you need in amounts, potassium is the one we need in a very, very large amount. We need like 4,700 milligrams of potassium every single day. Potassium is a physiological tranquilizer. It calms the nervous system down. It helps lower blood pressure. It also helps increase your energy. It's a major electrolyte. It's good for the heart. The next tip relates to vitamins. The multivitamins that make the most money, like I'm talking billions, okay, and I'm not going to mention their names, have the worst ingredients in the world. Nothing is from food. It's all just synthetics. Don't waste your money. Find something quality. But you have to realize that even like the vitamin C, they make it from cornstarch and sulfuric acid. If you're going to take a vitamin or give a vitamin to a child or pregnant woman, I would make sure it's higher quality. The other thing that's missing in our food is trace minerals. A lot of the food that you eat doesn't have the trace minerals it had long ago. The microbes are not in the soil because we're growing stuff on sterilized soil. When you're eating food that's not grown on something that has a lot of nutrients, so let's say it's grown with hydroponics, like in water, with 15 added minerals, you're not getting all the trace minerals that you need. One additional supplement that I would recommend is a trace mineral supplement because a lot of people are deficient. The trace minerals would be zinc, iodine, manganese, selenium, things like that. Next tip. Out of all of the proteins that you can consume, red meat is one of the most nutrient dense. If you want to feel really good and you want to be more energetic, or you want to handle your low blood sugar, red meat will do the trick very quick. It's going to perk you right up. Not necessarily for the iron, it's actually from the protein because our bodies really need sufficient protein, and grass-fed red meat will give you the highest quality. Next tip. If you're like me and you have a history of a lot of antibiotics, realize that a lot of your problems now could be related to the antibiotics. We were told that when we take an antibiotic that those microbes will come back. A lot of strains do come back, but not to the level where they should be. And one of the most powerful things you can do is make your own probiotic yogurt-like mixture, which creates some of the most amazing effects in your body. And when you watch the video that I will put down below, read the comments. It's going to be mind-blowing. People are noticing all sorts of amazing, cool effects from that. But all we're doing is we're replacing the microbes that used to be in our gut long ago before we took an antibiotic. Next tip is overtraining kills your testosterone. If you overtrain and don't let your body recover, not only are your hormones going to be messed up, but you will not achieve the gains and the improvements that you could. And you're going to find your energy is going to go down, 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 down. And so many other issues can occur, especially with inflammation. Next tip, if you go off the wagon and you eat too many carbs, what you should do is take vitamin B1 because you just depleted B1 and that's going to create more anxiety and stress, which could cause you to eat more of the wrong foods. Take more B1 to repair some of the damage and also get rid of some of the side effects that are occurring because you just ate that carb. Next tip, be careful of taking any iron supplements. Out of all the nutrients, iron is the one that doesn't really leave your body. Probably the only time I would recommend taking an iron supplement is if you are menstruating and you lost blood. But even then, the type of iron I would take would be a food source, either beef liver or liver tablets, but not the type of iron in those supplements. Next tip, if you're over 50 years old and let's say you have fatty arms or you have extra fat or cellulite on your body, chances are you may have a bit of atrophy, not necessarily fat. And if you don't differentiate that, you can go on a diet for a long period of time and it looks like you may be losing a little weight, but don't really ever see anything significant because it's age-related atrophy of the muscle. Biggest thing to prevent that is regular, consistent exercise, weight training, and magnesium too. Next tip, if you ever in your life get any surgery for any reason, always take a good amount of vitamin D right before it. I would take at least 50,000 IUs of vitamin D3, maybe up to 100,000 IUs 3 days before the surgery, because hands down, the outcome of any surgical procedure is going to be so much better if you have enough vitamin D. Another really important time to take vitamin D is when you're pregnant and you're lactating, breastfeeding. Super important for you and the baby, because if you're deficient in vitamin D, you're going to get postpartum depression. The child can end up with all sorts of weaknesses. Lastly, I think this is really super important. Invest in a good water filter. When you drink city water, There's going to be some forever chemicals in there. I just tested my water and I have 2 filters and it had a chemical that was 78,000 times higher than normal. The point is you need to invest in some type of filter. Don't drink the tap water. A lot of these tips were based on personal experience. So don't make the mistakes I made. Apply this information and I will see you in the next video.